Hi guys. Welcome. It's so nice to see so many people. We're delighted. Service design is growing fast. It's a buzzword, and everyone wants holistic experiences with the best customer experience. Tonight is about service design, or why service design projects fail so often to get implemented. In the spring of last year, our guests did more than 60 interviews, shadowed the process of 5 organizations to write a thesis on how to successfully implement service design in large organizations. And tonight they will present their findings and propose a revised design process for service designers. But first of all, thank you to Mesh. We love you because we can be here every Wednesday. And also welcome Eggs as our another sponsor for our exclusive advisory board. We love you too. And also there's the IXDA conference in March this year. There's only about 100 tickets left, so hurry up. And the next meetup will be on the February of 18th. It'll be with NRK and Bleed, talking about the making of the award-winning NRK app, and a surprising guest, an international speaker, an UX director and published author with a PhD in cognitive science, an inventor and an amateur magician. Stay tuned for more information. It's not Steven Van Sant. Niklas will say a few words about Visuelt.
Yes, so in October last year, we handed out the first Norwegian IXDA award, modeled after the International Interaction Awards. So we're repeating this again this year. But Grafil has moved the deadline. They're now doing the award instead of the fall, they're doing it in the spring. So the Visuelt Awards will open for entries 1st of February, and the deadline is the 15th. So why does IXDA want you to submit to the Visuelt Award? Obviously because we have the IXDA prize. The IXDA prize is an honorary award. We select from the best of the finalists of Grafil and honor the excellence of one contributor. So we really want more submissions from this community, because Visuelt traditionally is a very graphic design oriented award. They have a wide array of digital and interactive categories that we want you to submit to, because we want to celebrate the excellence of the work that this community is doing. So, deadline 15th of February. I hope as many of you as possible submit. Thank you.
And without further ado, please welcome Daniel Jackson and Pernille Landa Hansen to talk about service design.
Thank you. Obviously, there's some technical stuff first.
Some blue screen. This is a part of the presentation. We added some blue.
So let's see. My mic works. That's good. And we wait. Whoa.
Okay.
And this. That works. That's good. And this should work now. Thank you, everyone. My name is Daniel. I'm the Daniel. She's the Pernille. Should be obvious. We hope it is. And we've been doing this as a master thesis half a year ago now. 1 year ago. We started a year ago. And looking back at it, there's, of course, things that we would like to change about our own thesis, but it's been a little while. And one of them is the title, because why projects don't get past implementation is not really that good of a sentence. So it should be more like when projects don't get implemented, but that's not aesthetically pleasing, so we keep this one. It has more of a triangle, nice little shape to it. So yes, this is us. As you can see, I've dressed up in the same sweater that we used when we visualized this, so that you will recognize me. And this is the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about the problem first, very briefly about the process that we went through so that you know where these findings come from and how we arrived at them, and then the findings and conclusions and some material for change at the very end. So first, Pernille is going to take you through the problem.
Okay, so we started a little bit before we started the diploma by finding that service design, which is something that or basically it works like, I have a service, I go in and I explore it, and I suggest some changes or redesign it for a client. And then it's supposed to be implemented, but it doesn't always happen. But I just want to specify that service design in this diploma or this thesis is when we design whole services across multiple array of touch points. And also, we're not looking at when you only use the service design tools. So we're trying to look at actually when we're doing service design, so that's what we have been looking at. So we talked to a lot of people and we saw that implementation is the biggest problem for service designers today. So that was one senior service designer who told us. And also, in one of the blogs from Jarle Strømmen at Soprasteria, he describes the pre-project syndrome. Service designers are often a part of the pre-project, but we're not taking all the way through. Our opinions are heard first, but not later. Why not? So, problem, as they told it, was that there is immature organizations. They're not ready for service design. Ergo, it's not working. We wanted to flip this a little bit around, and we said, but what can service designers do ourselves? Because it's almost like saying that it's the user's fault. You can't say that. So, what can service designers change to improve the rate of full projects that get implemented was our thing. And we chose the perspective of the consultancy. Design consultancy comes to a big organization, and we're in the private sector. So we actually have to earn money on the services that we make. And we wanted this diploma to be contributing to the field so that we all would get better in the end. Hopefully that happened.
It's still a little bit time before we can judge how the diploma went or didn't go, I hope.
I hope so too.
But we've also seen some stuff happening. We'll come back to that. I just want to say that if you have any questions, you're free to interrupt us. This is about 20, 30 minutes, so we have plenty of time for questions. But we'll go through most of it first. So the process that we went through, we did a lot of interviews, and we shadowed some processes. And we interviewed people both on the buyer side, and we used these huge scrolls to make for fancy pictures. And both on the buyer side and the designer side, people who observe service design, people who research service design, people who are not service designers but often work alongside service designers or have been in projects where service design was used, all over the place.
And we really just tried to find out what are we not good at and what are we good at and what are the barriers for us to come all the way to implementation.
And we've had these mostly one-on-one, because this is a very touchy topic. We're talking about people's relation between the agency and the customer, and we're like trying to probe for the juicy stuff, like what doesn't work, why weren't they allowed to go all the way here, what disappointed you. And so everything you see here has been anonymized, except for him, poor bastard.
That's Kenneth Korstad.
That's Kenneth Korstad, in case someone didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
And we've cut out a lot of pictures, but every quote is anonymized, and we've tried to keep it so that people can't be recognized. And we also wanted to do a lot of interviews so that the opinions, when we found the really juicy ones, would sort of be hidden in numbers. So we shadowed other processes. We have over 60 interviews. We went to the United States and visited IDEO. We did lots of fun stuff. We had a great time. We have a logo wall. We visited 30 different organizations. And these are the ones who had the easily accessible logos on the internet. And then we tried to make sense of all of this and summarize it somehow. And I think think we might have done some work there, ending up in, among other things, these 9 map processes. And that's sort of the first output of the diploma. And these are different ways to do service development.
Yeah, and also some cases. So we mapped out cases of actually implemented service design, other people's processes in terms of implementing stuff. So graphic design, other services, amongst others, some people from IF who had been implementing over 100 small things. So we just like, what's your process? And then we tried to draw it out.
Lots of lessons learned. All of this material that we're going to show you is available online, and we'll show you with a link after. And I think there's some really juicy stuff here, but it's also some of the more inaccessible because it's just tiny text. So for the people who really want to learn something, go and look at this. And from all of this, we have some findings and some conclusions. And the first one is something positive, which is that service design is sometimes implemented as well. And this is something that missed from the presentation that we had like half a year ago, so people have been nagging us to add it in. But it's implemented when you, and Pernille can take you through this.
When you have a single existing service, then you have already figured out a lot of stuff, like how much staff do you have on hand, how many resources can you use, and this will actually go round and earn money enough for you to run the service. So single one of that. If you have a clear goal, like I want to reduce the time of this service, or I want to spend less money, or I want my customers to be more happy, that's often a good thing. So that's something for our customers to provide. Access and inclusion of all decision makers in the service. So within the service, you have like a lot of people who said like, I'm responsible for this part, and for this part. Bring all of those together and let them be a part of the process. And also the last one, which is anchoring with the top decision makers in the organization. So one of the guys actually made it just look like the top leaders were supporting this process by sitting in the room. He wasn't even looking at what happened, but just his presence told the people there that, oh, the leadership likes this. And that was important, because afterwards they were much more eager to actually do it. Stuff like that.
And none of this is very controversial. This is stuff that we've been taught, but that's also what we see in the cases that we've seen, where services are actually implemented. These are here. Yeah. But this is the juicy stuff. This is what our diploma is about. So we have 3 problem areas that we've chosen to focus on. We have lots of findings, but these are the 3 that we want to sort of pull out and shout out to the world. And they're very well illustrated here. So the first one is, what was it again?
Low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruit, which is why there's a ruler there.
Low-hanging ruler.
Low-hanging ruler. And then we have hidden strength, and we have major weakness, and we'll take you through all of them. They have like ninja names.
So the low-hanging fruit is that it needs to be measured. We have a lot of people that are really annoyed by service design on the outside because we're not measuring stuff. We're just saying like people are really happy, and we show a lot of soft stories, like a customer who now gets to have a good experience doing a service, but then it's like, but did you actually get some benefits for the business as well? And we have to show those numbers because service design is supposed to be good in business. And so those numbers has to be there. I know that a lot of people have a lot of good questions about this thing. So feel free to write them down and ask later.
Because we don't have time to do more.
No time.
Hidden strength. Service design. We think the hidden strength of service design is that service designers do a lot of different things. And they're really good services, but they're all labeled service design. So it's really confusing for everyone. And we've tried like brandfakkel. Anyone has a good English translation for brandfakkel? To throw a brandfakkel into the community, we've just tried to define the different services of service designers. So it's everything from actually designing a service to going more backstage in the organization and designing how incentives work, that sort of stuff, to doing concept art, to doing just user research, to advising and coaching, to facilitating other people's processes. Lots of different really good services. All of them are labeled the same, and people
are confused.
And they think that service design is the last thing that they interacted with. So you have people like, I don't see why service designers could do this. All they do is user research. I don't see how service designers can do this. All they do is this. And that's confusing for people. but it's also a hidden strength.
Yeah. So both of these things are things that we have to kind of clear up in order to make service design a little bit less confusing and a little bit more convincing. But what is our major weakness? Which is kind of the last thing here. And then we were actually backtrailing a little bit, because for us, this was quite an emotional journey. We were sort of fan of service design. We really wanted it to be a great thing. But we had one interview where we said, if I'm to be a little harsh, the service designers didn't add any value in the ideation because of lacking business understanding. And for us, that was a blow to the stomach. Like, coming out from that interview, we were like, service design is crap. But it's not. But they continued as well, and they said, actually, now I don't know how I will use service design beyond the pre-project, which is the pre-project syndrome. Since they didn't see the value that was added by the service designers because of this lacking business understanding, then of course they won't bring us on. So we're good at ideation, but maybe we're not giving the right thing. But what is business understanding? We were like, what the hell? And also at this point, we had 1 month left of the diploma, and we were like, so we started to read a lot. We did the Osterwalder, we did business models, we read up on change management, and we read up on the content of an MBA, which is what is that standing for?
Master of Business Administration.
Exactly.
That thing.
Cryptic. It's a really huge field, and it was impossible to put all your attention at once, but we tried, and we also found out when we had further interviews that people ask questions like, can service designer answer questions like which business models to use and how much my customers are willing to pay? I don't know if all of you can, but we couldn't. That was embarrassing. And also it tags along with this business understanding thing. We were now more probing when we asked questions. We were like, but service designers and business understanding, is that a good thing? So what you do is user experience design, not design of services. That is numbers and hard facts. And we honestly thought we were doing design of services. So this was also very upsetting to us. So we also went back to previous interviews. And people had been saying things to us that we hadn't caught because we didn't think about business understanding. So they asked for, but I need a plan for operations. Like, how is this actually going to work for me? I want you to better understand my limitations. I can't add extra staff. I don't have money for it. Understanding of core business. I earn my money through this part of the service. You can't touch it. Don't do it. And scaled implementation. Now I'm clicking backward. But that is basically, if you have only small budget for implementation, make a small change. Big budget, bigger change. But usually a small change is better. So we can't really know how all of you guys are in terms of service design or other types of design. We don't know what you know and what you don't know. But we do know that if we look at the whole and we add business to it, there are actually models that look at this. This is taken from IDEO. They talk about every good design as a part of viability, feasibility, and desirability. Viability is the business side, the side that we may be not that good at. Feasibility is the technical side. We're sort of good at that, I think. And human is like our thing. And as we got confirmed, if you don't talk about things like the economic consequences, I won't take you seriously. So we have to take economy and business more seriously. And this is from a potential buyer, vice president in his firm. So we're like intimidated. So that was our major weakness.
So we've been telling this story to a lot of people. And after we sort of changed course in the diploma after this quote and looked back at the different interviews and started to question this, we had a lot of questions. And other people have had a lot of questions. And the first one is like, isn't this just bad designers? And yes, yes, it is. But there's a few problems there. First of all, bad designers are bad for everyone. So here's from one buyer who says that my designers are good, but I've seen some service design agencies deliver concepts that are no better than what ad agencies deliver, which is really hurtful. Really, really hurtful stuff. So he was describing, a lot of people are describing that there's a huge variance in the field, and it's difficult to know exactly who are good at this and who are bad at it, especially as this user said, we first had some students in and then hired professional designers later. Strangely, it felt like the professional designers understood less of the business than the students. We like this quote, or I'm not sure if we like it anymore. We liked it a lot when we presented it and we're students. So this shows that it's really hard when it's such a huge diversity. It's really hard to know, is this a good designer, is this a bad designer? And it really ruins the field for everyone when there are these bad designers out there.
So obviously we want everyone to be really good. And also, aren't customers happy? Actually, they are very happy. I rarely think that people come back from a customer and say like, oh, they were really unhappy with what we delivered. But we got a story that might explain why they are so happy, and yet we are not implementing as much maybe as we should. And that is I think it was an interaction designer who said he would been working alongside service designers, and they had been doing an amazing process, but the thing that they actually delivered was so high level that it wasn't really a concept. It was more like, yeah, and then this phone will fix it. So the customers were really happy, but they weren't planning on using the delivery any further, which means that the process was so good for them that they were really pleased. But they also said like, okay, so the process was amazing. This delivery, we're not going to use it for anything. Let's get fine. Let's move on in life. Which is disturbing, because we think that our customers will tell us if they're not happy with it. But obviously, they don't know what we are or what we can deliver. So they were like, okay, so the process is the thing you'll deliver. We're delivering concept art. And that's kind of, at this point at least, that's what we were doing.
And then there's this thing about co-creation. And lots of people say like, oh, but it's okay that designers don't understand the viability and feasibility and business side of things and do stuff like that, because we have co-creation, which to those people who are not like completely inside this little circle of people who know all these terms, is a process where you try to include people who actually have this knowledge from the organization or from other places into the process, and say like, okay, if we had the right people in the room, we will have all the knowledge we need in the room to actually make this a great service. But like this buyer or user said, having the right people in the room does not help if you don't know how to spar with them. And he had been in a room with service designers where he knew that the right people were there, but the designer didn't know enough about business to actually challenge the business people on the business side of things. So they either didn't understand what was being said and just designed something that didn't fit with what was being said, or didn't challenge that when it should have been challenged. And this is something that we know from other parts of design as well, from industrial design, that your product design, you're a much better designer if you know the engineering side enough to actually challenge the engineers, to push the engineers further. Same story here.
Mm. Is coursing enough? I know how insulted I am when someone take a small course in design and they say, good, we're designers now, let's do everything. And I think we have to show the same respect towards other fields. One of the fields that helped us the most during this diploma was management consultants. They have been doing implementing of services for a long time, and they're maybe able to spar with us. So there are a lot of people that we should include, but I think maybe learning to focus more on that collaboration might help us a lot.
So that's a lot about the problems. How will we fix it? We had this idea at the start of the diploma that we wanted to contribute to the field. We wanted to do something concrete. Now, when we started that, we thought that the problem might be really specific, like blueprints shouldn't be made this way, they should be made this way instead.
Problem solved.
So that seemed very simple to solve. But like at the end of this process, we had like 3 weeks left or something like that, and felt like, okay, we need to make something to contribute there. And we thought, okay, what's going on here is that there's this evil circle in Norwegian, this self-reinforcing evil system thingy, where our projects are not implemented, and so we lack experience with implementing projects. and so we deliver unrealizable designs, and so our projects are not implemented. And we need to sort of break out of this one, and we thought, okay, how can we help here? We can't help implement projects, at least not in 3 weeks. But what we can do is take all of this stuff that we've gathered from all of these people and give that to the community. So we thought, okay, we can inject knowledge, and we can inject that here, and hopefully change this so that you get realizable designs, so the stuff actually gets implemented, and so that you gain experience with implementing, and it has become a virtuous circle instead. Now it says knowledge and people there. We can't really inject people. But I think the best way to get it is to actually hire people who know this stuff and bring them along in the design process and have them in the design agencies. And we know agencies have been doing that both after our diploma was delivered, but also a little bit prior to that. So I think that's a really good thing that's going on now, and it's going to help this circle. Now, our contribution is that knowledge, and to do that, we've created material for change. And Pernille will take you through it.
So we created kind of 4 things that we are trying to make available online. That's really available. Internet is for everyone, I heard. And that contributes with a new process where we looked at our own process and tried to redesign it in the eyes of everything that we knew now. It's an embarrassing process, I tell you. We tried to identify some questions, and we made the reports, and we also had a plan for distribution. So that's, I think you will take us through that new process of ours.
Thank you. So looking at all these other processes from other people than designers that actually do get their stuff implemented, we went back and looked at our own process as and this is going to be too tiny text for you to read, but it's okay. I'll take you through it. Our old process that we sort of had in our head, and to just do service to AHO where we were educated. This is not what we were taught, but it's what we had in our head. So it's you define a project, you do some research, obviously a iterative process and stuff. You design a solution, and then you make this blueprint, this description of how the service is going to be, and it's going to be fantastic, and then implementation happens at the end.
Very easy.
Very easy. And after doing this master thesis, we would change a lot of things. First of all, remove the whole blueprint handover thingy, because people didn't actually use them when they were delivered like a handover like that. And make space for adding a proof of concept. I'll come back to all of this. Add a planning of change, because change doesn't just happen, it needs to be planned. Add an evaluation. We'll summarize this at the end. Change the role of the designer from just being there and then disappearing to actually being in an advisory role throughout. Involve other people, like people who know how to implement change in an organization. There's lots of different tasks that needs to be done here. It's a pretty complicated thing. And there's some stuff, these are kind of important. This is where the customer will sit and go like, okay, I'm investing a serious amount of money now. Not over there, because the pre-projects are pretty cheap. But I'm investing a serious amount of money when we go from here to here. I'm investing a serious amount of money when we go from here to here. And those are important moments. And to summarize, the most important here is the proof of concept. And the proof of concept is here, and it's supposed to prove that this idea that we have, before we start implementing it, before we start sketching out the actual design of it, because designing a service is a complicated thing, this idea that we have, it is desirable, the customers want it is viable, we can actually make money on this, and it's feasible, we can actually do this.
And also, it solves the problem of the client.
Yes, thank you. And surprisingly enough, that wasn't presented often enough, especially the viability and feasibility part. And then planning and actually executing change, and that's such an important thing that you actually need expertise in to say like, okay, we're a big organization, that's what we're looking at. We need someone in with the competence to actually do that. And measuring at the end to solve our first low-hanging fruit. So if you change perspective and bring in change change theory, very funny pun that I just ruined, and say, okay, how does this look from management in that organization? How does this process look? Well, it doesn't look like this, where you research and you do a proof of concept and you design and then you plan and prepare and execute. You have a view of this where you go like, okay, how will this happen in my organization? And there's a much wider lens. And to get that lens into our process, we added Kotter, which is this linear change management process. And there's lots of change management processes, but Kotter is easy, so that's why we did it. And try to merge that and say like, okay, how does the service design process fit into the Kotter model? How do they fit together? And got this stuff here. And all of this here is in our report and online, so I won't go through like every single step of it. But first, this pre-project thing is, which is everything we do now, where you craft and find an opportunity. You find that this is something that we want to do, and you prove that that is something that's worth investing more money in. And then you start to build a coalition in the organization, you research and design the service with the coalition and the organization, you remove barriers and build stuff, like we've said here. We've ruined Kotter as well. And then you change easy stuff first to gain momentum so that you can actually change the hard stuff and then evaluate at the end. And looking at expanding it even further, because we're service designers and we like huge maps. We have down here, before we move it down, we have the creative space, like how much space is there to actually change the service during this process. But at the top, what are the actual costs? Like the technical costs of building and buying the new stuff that you need for service, but also the manpower cost, the involving and training of staff. How much does this cost the organization? And you can see how important that proof of concept is. Both the first one here, before you start to gain any real costs, but the second one over here, where you have actually, you know what you're going to build, and you have a proof of concept that this is going to work, because that's when the real investments start. So those maps are online somewhere.
Mm. So we had got a lot of complaints while we were trying to map this, because any process is not linear, but we like to make the argument that yes, it looks like this, but it's a lot easier to remember when it's in the line.
Oh, so
we just did that. So we also, because we changed our own process, doesn't mean that you have to follow that process, but we also try to kind of break down what we were trying to put into that process and what we were trying to solve. We have broken down what feasibility, viability, and desirability may mean in a service design project or design process, and what kind of questions you have to answer in all of these fields during a process. So what we want to do is that we want to give people a perspective of knowing what we don't know yet, know who to bring in. We haven't solved that yet, but we hope that you sort of will. And being able to spar with and challenge those people. So we created this list within desirability, feasibility, and viability of questions that we have to answer. We also added, like, who will you ask? That's the part we haven't filled out. That's the part we hope you will do. Go online, do something. And we tried it out in a workshop together with the Service Design Network. We got a lot of feedback, and we also added some questions in terms of project structure and also change management. Because there is a lot of things, just like politiske ting.
Political.
Thank you. That has to happen outside of the project. And preferably you will have like some project manager that would do this, so you don't have to, because it's a lot of stuff to think about and handling people. So the complete list is also on a map online that you can look at and try to say, have we answered all of these questions in our project? And of course, this question is not really necessary for us to answer in this project. That's fine.
All of this stuff is in the report, but all of this is also very half-baked bread. Even though we hope that we've added a lot of value, it's stuff that we summarized after 6 months of work, 4 months of work. And you will need to take it further to make it useful for you. It's not like do this instead of what you were doing. It's more like here is some stuff that you can play with to change what you're already doing. We've written a lot about all the different factors in the report. You can find that on this website here, makeitbetter.no. I'll do it bigger later on.
There is another one in the end.
And we've received a lot of response by both while we were doing this master thesis and after. And I want to bring out one of them that we really like, and it's this one from a management consultant. I have no doubt that you will not only help change design, but the whole consultancy business. We others also need to change, and together we're dynamite. So we love that. So to sum up, 3 different problems. 1 low-hanging fruit, go measure if your projects actually have an effect. 1 hidden strength, or we're hiding our strength by being really confusing about our naming. We have a proposal for different names to use. And 1 major weakness, we lack business understanding. And we need to bring in people who know it and learn it ourselves to actually get our stuff implemented.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. And that's where it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know. There we go. Thank you, Daniel. Pernille.
It's like a very mystical, forceful thingy. Yeah, that's good.
So I will try to get out of the way of this feedback. Looking at your work and I mean seeing the kind of issue we have in interaction design, service design at large, or user experience for that matter, is one of the main problems competence, that the field, even though it kind of stems from system design, that it's still, as a concept, service design is so new that we don't have the kind of heavy competence in that field?
I think we have different answers for this.
Yeah.
Do
you want to start?
I'll go first. I think it really depends on the designer. But I think it's very natural for a young field to struggle with this. If you look at the different design disciplines as they've grown out over the years, product design, as we learned in school, started out with just styling, and then it's moved on to be much more about everything about the product, both how you build it, how you manufacture it, how you transport it, but also how it's actually used, everything about it. And you need some serious competence to be that sort of designer, to be able to take it all the way and not just do the visual stuff. Service design definitely needs more of that from the stuff that we've found to actually get our projects implemented.
I also think that as of right now, we're sort of thinking that we're doing a project on our own. As a product designer, both of us has a bachelor in product design, so we compare a lot with that. As product designers, we kind of have an overview of the whole process. In service design, there are a lot of more different things to know. So thinking that we are supposed to know about everything is maybe naive. Some also mentioned that maybe we should specialize more. Maybe I should be only working with hospitals if that's my passion, and specialize in that. And you can think about it. Maybe we shouldn't think of service design as this whole thing, but more like a part of a service development project, so that we are merely almost lacking our engineer, which is kind of who is collaborating with us in product design. We have to collaborate with someone else instead of trying to know everything. So we just kind of lack a partner.
Interesting. Is there any questions to Pernille and Daniel? There we go.
Yes, hello, my name is Sunna, and I'm a service designer at the startup company Food Market, and we're actually sitting here at Mesh. So I also want to use the opportunity, since I have all those great hats here, to say that we are looking for a CTO, an expert in information architecture. So if there's anyone, please contact me afterwards. Then this advertisement is over, and back to the question. What do you think about the strength of service designers coming from different backgrounds? Now you have background in design, and then there's service designer coming with business background, etc., etc. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, The people we interviewed maybe have more experience with sort of the service design with background in design. So they were talking a lot about the strength being the visualizations. It was so amazing once things were visualized, and the facilitation and a lot of things that they can't do, especially like that coming from a lot of insights and creating concepts. That was something they described as a value. So I don't know, maybe you can add on what could be the strength of other types of service designers as well, because I think we need it, but I don't know what it is. I've been trying to work a little bit with people from different backgrounds, and up until now I'm very confused.
So would you say service design is not really a title, it's a product of several different competences?
There's no one who's defining service design. So obviously anyone can call themselves a service designer and market themselves as a service designer, and so it's going to be a little bit confusing. But that's why we hope actors like Service Design Network, for instance, and IXDA can help to create clarity about what words we use for the different types of service design and the different services that service designers deliver. That's a lot of service in a sentence. Yeah. Because they're so different, and there will be different with different backgrounds as well. Like if you have a background in logistics, you might be a really good service designer for a logistics company, working with them. If you have a background in health, you'll be a really good service designer for people in healthcare, etc. So
service design is struggling with exactly the same thing as UX and interaction design. So we need to have this Designers Anonymous group where we can kind of figure all this stuff out.
Hi. With these suggested measures, how much more gets implemented?
We don't know.
Haven't been tested.
It has not been tested, and there's actually a footnote in the report where it says we haven't actually tested any of this. Beware. So we definitely, this project is, that's why we also said the half-baked thing is, but this project definitely has lots of the weaknesses that we ourselves critique in service design, and it's more of a research project than this is a new process, this is how we should do it. So no, we don't know.
But I think it's very nice that you mentioned that we haven't measured our own project. Thank you.
It's a very good start at the low-hanging fruit.
It's a very good point.
You mentioned there was some confusion about the term service design, but those you interview who did not have a design background, did they understand that you were talking about service design, or did they use other terms like design in general or graphic design? Or
when we were talking to people who hadn't experience with service design, we didn't talk about service design. We talked about implementation. So we talked about what will be required for you to implement the project, what needs to be done, when will you stop a project from implementing, and have you implemented projects, what did it look like? So for those who had experience with service design, it was people who have connections with some of the more, I don't know, some of the design agencies in Oslo, like Eggs or Design It or Halogen. And so we were talking about specific projects. And then they are quite similar. So we were kind of coming from the same pool.
It's also worth to note that people who are clients or users of service design, like we said in the presentation, they will define service design as that one time they've used it, because few people have used it more than one time. And so they will think that service design is user research. And they'll wonder, like, why do service designers do this when I have social anthropologists who can do this? And that they didn't do as good user research as the social anthropologists that I normally use, so I won't use them again. Because they don't see the whole spectrum.
Thank you.
So we have a branding problem.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes. More questions?
Isn't that a problem that most service designers are consultants? Shouldn't we bring in the design thinking into the organizations where they actually are experts of their fields and their business? If they could have design thinking in every project they did, we shouldn't need service designers.
We really hope that. So we interviewed some internal service designers at different companies, can't say which, and they had the same problems because they also sort of didn't manage to convince the right people of the right things. And it's usually huge organizations when you have a service designer. There, obviously, if you're a small organization, it would be different because you have a personal relationship to everyone. But yeah.
They also implement in a different way.
Yeah.
They're not bringing up a complete project and say like, let's implement it. It's more like, we're going to change this small thing now. And then you change that, and things kind of just naturally grow into implementation as you pilot it, and then you kind of halfway implemented it. Next time you're doing it for real, and then you sort of implemented it. And you do so small things that you're able to kind of go below the whole implementation project as well. But I agree with you, which is why I'm starting in DMB next month.
Would you say design thinking and service design, is that methodology versus philosophy, or?
When I say service design, I think about the actual like performing the design of a service. You also have kind of the philosophy or methodology, and I would almost argue that you can call that design thinking. But it's also, service design has been struggling with a lot of problems, so kind of the process that we use is working a lot with breaking down barriers in terms of resistance in the organization. And I think we should use that on everything and stop calling it service design. But I don't know if people agree with me on that.
But to answer again and to reinforce the point, if service design is design, then it is actually changing a service, and then it's more than design thinking, which obviously is a more holistic, like or applies to every type of design. But when service design is just used as that methodology, then it becomes difficult to divide the two as it should be. If you were using product design methods on something without actually designing a product, then you would also have difficulty separating that from design thinking. So I think that's where that conflict or that confusion comes from.
More questions? Don't let, yeah.
So we had this naming problem for years now. How do we solve that? It's like
hire a change manager.
No.
Hire a guy from McKinsey, or?
Yes, of course, McKinsey are great. Actually, I think it's something about acknowledging that there is a process and there are different things that we do. And like you tried to point out, you've suggested a couple of different names for the different actions that we do. And it's allowed to be a service designer doing user research or aiding someone in a process or doing all of this other stuff that we end up doing. We might not call it service design and try not to win prizes for things that are not service design, so that our customers go like,
except the IXDA prize, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would like to win one of those. But just be honest, like we are allowed to be something and do something, and try to name that in the right way, consequently, will perhaps aid us a little bit. So.
But we don't have control of what other people are selling or doing.
No.
So it's a difficult project. I think for other design strands, it's happened over a long time, and it will probably happen over a long time here as well. But it won't happen unless we try either. So.
A comment about the naming again.
Yeah.
We've been having a lot of problems with like the name, even the name design. Like a lot of people think that it's just people that put the cherry on the top. And now that we are going to call not just service designers, but we come without a lot of other names, then it's going to be much more confusing for people to know then what is really service design, because service designers do so much stuff. So maybe instead we should have an award, this is not service design, and be able to like point out that, well, that's not service design. Service design is a complete thing.
Yeah.
But maybe having more names doesn't really help us.
Might very well be. Might very well be. I'm a service designer internal in a project now, and I call myself project manager, and that works a lot better. But so I don't know.
Yeah. I know that I will be very, or at least try to be very clear to say like, yes, now we did the research, and tomorrow maybe we'll design some services. Try to be very specific, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, I know that one of the most difficult things is that people maybe get, that's what I mentioned, prices for things that aren't service design, and that is a very clear message towards our customers because they go and see like, okay, so this project, that is service design because it won the service design prize. But if it's a service designer doing something or someone else doing something that is similar but not entirely, that's confusing. It will, of course, limit the amount of prizes people will get. That's kind of sad.
Can I just a quick experiment? Since we're so many people here today, can you raise your hand if you have service designer in your title? And of you, how many do actually have an actual degree in service design?
How many do we know?
Interesting.
And that's 4 people we don't know.
You're actually...
Oh, sorry.
Well, he's a project manager now,
oh, yeah,
so it's fine.
Bye-bye.
It's gone to the other side. That's interesting, because this is what we see in interaction design, this is what we see in user experience, this is what we see in service design. It's kind of, we've reinvented ourselves time and time again, and we come from different, whether it's graphic design, product design, it's architecture, etc. And we confuse ourselves and we confuse our clients. So we're in that bad circle, and it doesn't really help injecting more people because we add more to the confusion. Different people.
Different people, not just more people. Different.
Yeah. Okay, different. So, is there a solution to this? Do we all just take a stance and say we're designers? That's it.
I think that's even more confusing. But that's what AHO has just done by renaming the masters from Masters of Industrial Design to Master of Design, with specialization in. So, yeah.
And then the discussion was about what you said. What is design really? Because people will think that we're doing nail design.
Yeah. But I think in the end, people don't. I think designers care a lot more about what design is called than other people do. But they care about what sort of value they get out of that process. What sort of value do I get? And if you can describe that in clear language that's not like designer language, then I think you'll win a lot more customers and have a lot more happy customers. Saying that what we're going to do in this process is not saying like service design or design thinking to do something, but we're going to understand the people who are your customers and how they go through the service that you deliver. I don't know. And then limit the projects to that and say, okay, and then the next step could be to actually make a proof of, or find some ideas on how we can improve this, and then make a proof of concept for that. And then the next step would be, after, if the proof of concept is good enough, that we actually make a new plan for how we should run your service. Try to use normal words. I think that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Any more questions? One more here.
I probably have a comment, or you can comment on my comment. Don't you think that time is kind of working for us in this field? Because I feel I'm very optimistic, actually. Like, I felt a shift just last year almost when it comes to service design. Of course, it's not perfect. It's not like I come to like the IT people and the whatever knows exactly what I'm doing. But people know what a user journey is. Everyone's talking about users. I mean, I have a new boss in the city hall, and his finance minister of finance of Oslo. His second question to my department was, "But how do you guys work with the users?" So I'm also a bit like, do we really need to be so concerned with explaining everything we do, as long as sort of I see more and more people getting into these positions and actually showing what we're doing? And like a communication person, like, don't have to say exactly what they're doing, but because their profession is so kind of old and established, they don't have to. So I'm actually kind of optimistic. I think there has been a shift, and I don't know if you have any comments.
I think you're right to be optimistic. I think there's lots of stuff happening. There's something called the Gartner hype curve, which that's our worry. And I'll just explain the Gartner hype curve with
Some gestures?
Some gestures, dramatic gestures. And the Gartner hype curve is like a curve for different technologies that come and how people, that's a good music for it, and how people perceive the usefulness of that technology as time progresses. And it goes like this, where you're like, oh my God, 3D printing, and then it goes down into what they call the thorough of disillusionment.
Can I add one thing up here? Oh my God, 3D printing can be used for everything.
Yes.
And then you go down, it was like, it wasn't everything. You can only use it for some things.
And if you're not that useful, it'll just die there. But if you actually provide real value, it might go back up again slowly, like, okay, we can actually use it for this or this or this. That's a model for technology, and they try to make a lot of money by selling reports about which technology is where and which you should invest in and stuff. But I think something similar is happening with services, and I think our fear
was happening, I'd say, but okay.
Is that we are like up here somewhere where everyone is like, oh my God, this can solve every problem that we have. And at some point, we'll realize that, oh my God, it didn't solve every problem, and no, it can't solve any problem. And then the question is, can we actually get out of that again? But
I think we can, and I would also add that doing kind of this project was a hope to see, like, if we ourselves realize what we can and cannot do and what our limits are, we are a lot better at primary our customers to say, like, yes, we can do almost everything, but not this thing. And then maybe we won't go back down, we go like swooning over there.
But I think you're right to be optimistic. I think we're on a good curve. That doesn't mean that there aren't problems, of course.
I just see that I think this is quite a change. I think it's the first time in Norwegian history that there are too few designers in Norway, and so I think we're over that. We're over that. I think because I think I see the evidence every day. Like when you have Oslo Kommune and they're like employing designers, then I think that's a change. That's like a sign.
I have a comment. I think there is a change, but I don't think we are evolved or advanced as we like it to be.
Where are you?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
The problem is that if we don't define anything, we can't measure it. And it's really important if we want to argue for pitching ourselves. So in the beginning, we might have to define maybe too narrow definition, but it will work because then more people, we can measure it, and then we can actually show results.
And also we can over-deliver, which is always good.
And just to comment a little bit more on Jungenvill, I think, I lost it. It's gone.
I pointed it that
I think I lost it.
Yeah.
Next.
I just was thinking that probably to simplify the whole thing about the naming, we can use like how we could tell in Pulp Fiction. My name is Winston Wolf. I solve problems.
Yes.
But that actually, I think that I don't like that at all. Because I think that makes the problem worse. It's like I create problems instead of I solve problems. Because there's this thing that design can solve any problem, and if you really believe that you can solve any problem without prior knowledge, or within the budget, or like on time, then you're a little bit deluded. And I think that's what we've been finding here, is that yes, you can come up with lots of creative solutions, but they might not actually solve any problems unless you have prior knowledge or bring in people who have prior knowledge. So I can solve problems if we actually bring in this, and if it's within this realm of competency.
So then you can go like, hello, I am something wolf. I solve problems. And then they go like, yeah, solve this problem. And you can say like, I don't solve that problem. Problem solved.
I'll comment on that from because I'm a bit worried about this. Does anyone live in a house built around 98 to 2000? I do, and if anyone remembers, there was a building boom before the bust, obviously, and there wasn't enough carpenters, there wasn't enough plumbers, there wasn't enough anyone who could build a house. So we had people coming in, and you were a dentist, yeah, you can build a house. You're a car mechanic, yeah, I'm sure you can do plumbing. If you live in a house built in 2000, that I do, you bear the consequences of that. It's shit. And this is my worry. I love the fact that we're in a boom now. As a person who is educated in the field, you can There's fantastic job opportunities, but there's also the influx of people who's like, yeah, design sounds interesting. I can make 100,000 more, and it's shit. And that's the problem. We're a bit we're over in Mike Montero territory here, but that is a big worry for me. I love the fact that the finance minister also is concerned about the users. I love that. That's great. I'm worried that he won't be able to hire the right people. I know you, and you're definitely the right person, so that's not a criticism of you. But that's my problem with a lot of these things, that we have a lot of people who are not in the design industry hiring people that are like, yeah, they say they know Photoshop, they must be great.
And this is the same problem that you've seen with other ideas that we don't want to compare ourselves to, like now recently Lean, where everyone is like, oh, I'm a Lean expert, I can do Lean. And Lean has become like this explosion of stuff, and everyone wants to do Lean and Lean processes and Lean this and Lean that. Of course, there's a core of people who are actually really good at it and who can do it well, but there's like a myriad of people, and it's dying out again, I think, because you can't just Google Lean Oslo and hope to find someone to solve your problem.
There's a meetup, I think.
So I think it's trying to say that yes, it's a problem. We have no clue how to solve it.
All right, I think we'll wrap up and have drinks. I hope as many of you as possible stay for some drinks and talks afterwards. Thank you so much, Pernille and Daniel. Give them a big hand.
We did a usability flaw when we made the report. We made it look like it's 160 pages when it's really 30, and we never told anyone. So when you're going in to read the report, don't be intimidated by the 160, which is really 30 pages.
It's just a lot of pictures.
Yeah, just a lot of pictures and drawings. So, thank you.